The Concorde is the world's most iconic airline. And do you know why? Quite simply because it's the fastest supersonic aircraft on the planet. Have you ever heard of it? The first supersonic aircraft projects were launched in 1959. The British Aircraft Corporation and the British government decided to get things moving. In 1955, the first drawings were produced on both sides of the channel. In France, it was in 1960 that the idea of aircraft breaking the sound barrier occurred to a number of aeronautical companies. Sud Aviation took the lead on the French side. On January 13, 1963, the name Concorde was pronounced for the first time by the French president of the time, Charles de Gaulle. The English preferred to drop the last letter and refer to it as the Concorde. How can the Concorde be such a monument to aviation history? We're talking about one of Europe's most incredible industrial adventures. Even today, this supersonic aircraft continues to make people dream. It's true that the supersonic battle is far from over. This just goes to show the influence Concorde had on 21st century engineers. Indeed, French and British production joined forces to create the aircraft of the future. It was in Filton, Gloucestershire in the UK and in Toulouse, Haute-Garonne that everything came together. Rolls-Royce and Snecma took part in the project, notably for the design of the Olympus 593 engines. The Concorde prototype was built for 100 passengers. Its cruising speed is Mach 2.2, and it can reach altitudes of over 15,000 meters. Incredible statistics for the time. What do you think? Nevertheless, engineers had to concentrate on reducing the supersonic boom, but also on the choice of materials used. Indeed, at such speeds, these 2 points are particularly important. Ecology is also at the heart of the debate. It's true that the Concorde consumes a lot of fuel. Its carbon footprint per passenger is 3 times higher than that of conventional aircraft. The rollout is a highly symbolic moment in the life of an aircraft program. It corresponds to the aircraft leaving the workshop. It's a milestone in the creation of any aircraft, supersonic or otherwise. That of the first Concorde 001 took place on December 11, 1967 in Toulouse in front of 1,100 guests. 2 years later, on March 2, 1969, it made its maiden flight. It was only 6 years later that the aircraft acquired all the certifications required to fly to the necessary standards. The year was 1979. But how much did all this cost? At the time of certification, Concorde's development cost £2 billion, equivalent to 2.3 billion euros. Air France and British Airways chose to carry out the inaugural flights at the time, from Paris to Rio de Janeiro and from London to Bahrain. 2 Concordes take to the skies at the same time, a powerful symbol for this extraordinary supersonic aircraft. Let's take a look back at Concorde's test flight. How did it go? After 10 years of work, the plane finally made its first mark on the skies. Pilot André Turcat took the controls. Generally speaking, Concorde represented a combination of risk, danger, and daring. The test flight had already been postponed twice due to adverse weather conditions. Indeed, heavy fog made it impossible to fly in complete safety. At 3:38 p.m. on March 2, 1969, André Turcat took the controls of the FWT-SS aircraft on runway 32 at Toulouse-Blagnac Airport. After covering 2,000 meters in around 30 seconds, the Concorde took to the skies for the first time, lasting exactly 29 minutes. More than 1,000 police and journalists were also on hand to witness the event. The first commercial supersonic flight took place in 1977 on the famous transatlantic route, a new era in aviation. It's true that the Concorde is considered the aircraft of all records, but what is it really? This aircraft has opened up a whole new approach to flying. Its capabilities are such that many describe it as outside the world of conventional aviation. Its shape is unlike that of any other aircraft. Its delta wing is revolutionary. What's more, its tilting nose ensures better air penetration. Its engines also adapt to different flight phases. A special alloy is used for the envelope. As a result, it's able to withstand both speed and heat. The major problem of the plane's gravity has been solved by a judicious distribution system. Depending on the different phases of flight, the 95 tons of kerosene are distributed under the entire cabin to ensure perfect balance. Fuel is also used to cool the aircraft. The Concorde thus represents a playground for many previously unknown aeronautical applications. It was the first time we heard of electric flight controls or carbon brakes. These would later be used on Airbus aircraft. Concorde also set a number of records, notably for speed and altitude. We're talking 2,754 kilometers per hour and 20,700 meters. How did the engineers who worked on the project achieve such a level of innovation? Quite simply by pooling their knowledge to meet an incredible challenge. For 27 years, Concorde not only made people dream, but also served them well. Unfortunately, its end is not as beautiful as its reign. It was both a technological jewel and a commercial failure. On July 25th, the year 2000, Air France's Concorde AF4590 took off from Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. Very quickly, the aircraft's left wing burst into flames. A few minutes later, the plane crashed into a hotel in the town of Gonesse in the Val d'Oise region of France. 113 people were killed, a real catastrophe for the master of aviation. How could such an accident happen to such a powerful aircraft? A Continental Airlines DC-10 was involved. According to the investigation, it lost a titanium plate on the runway shortly before Concorde took off. This damaged one of the aircraft's engines. A tire also burst. However, the weakness of Concorde's tires was well known, but an engineering masterstroke such as this could not be grounded for purely technical reasons. So, it was overconfidence that led to Concorde's loss. Nevertheless, it still represents a form of failure. It's true that only 14 were sold, shared between Air France and British Airways. After the 1973 oil crisis, there were the only two airlines to maintain their orders. Over the years, Concorde became far too costly to maintain. The air transport crisis following the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, took its toll on this legendary aircraft. Despite several attempts to resume flights, it was definitively withdrawn from service in 2003. It is now a museum piece. Is the supersonic aircraft still relevant today? It would seem so. Will Concorde have a worthy successor? In October 2020, Boom Supersonic presented its first prototype, the XB-1, capable of flying at Mach 2.2. It would link Europe to New York in less than 3.5 hours, with 55 passengers on board. By 2030, the company hopes to be able to offer commercial flights. Airlines such as Virgin Atlantic and Japan Airlines already seem to be interested. Their orders are already underway, but Boom Supersonic isn't stopping there. Last July at the Farnborough Air Show, the aircraft's final design was presented. Renamed Overture, it should be capable of carrying 65 to 80 passengers at the supersonic speed of Mach 1.7. That's around 2,100 kilometers an hour. This aircraft could make its maiden flight by 2026, and commercial flights by 2029 at the latest. Since the end of the Concorde, there have been many projects, but none has seen the light of day. Is this one the right one? Does the supersonic aircraft still have a future? Can the Concorde really be replaced? Don't hesitate to give us your opinion by leaving us a comment below. We look forward to hearing from you. See you soon on aTech.